Okay, so today we're diving into a really powerful book, John Ralston Saul's The Unconscious Civilization. And wow, what a title, right? Saul basically argues that our whole society is, well, sleepwalking straight into a crisis. It asks some seriously tough questions, and that's what we're here to do. Unpack them and see what we can find.
So let's start with the big central question Saul throws at us. I mean, think about it. We have more information, more data, more education at our fingertips than any other time in history. And yet, doesn't it feel like we're just stuck? When it comes to the really huge problems, war, poverty, you name it, we seem totally paralyzed. It's this crazy gap between what we know and what we do that Saul says really defines our time.
And look, this isn't just some vague feeling, right? The numbers, they tell a pretty stark story. 5,000 civilians dying in wars every single day. Over 35 million people unemployed in the West. A third of the world's kids undernourished. Saul's point is that these aren't just numbers on a screen. They are symptoms of a deep, deep crisis. And the scary part, we see these stats all the time, but we've kind of gone numb to them. It's like we have all this knowledge, but it has zero impact. Information overload that just leads to inaction.
This leads to Saul's really shocking diagnosis. He says it's like our society has institutionalized a kind of collective Alzheimer's disease. Think about that. He's arguing that we have built systems that are designed to make us forget, to deny what we already know, and to ignore the lessons from our own history. And why? Because this prevents us from acting on the truth. It's a deliberate, constructed state of unconsciousness, a group amnesia that, as we'll see, serves a very clear purpose.
So you gotta ask, what's the purpose of all this forgetting? Well, according to Saul, it's because our civilization has literally been hijacked. He says there's this one dominant ideology that's taken over, and it's so pervasive, so everywhere, that most of us don't even see it. It's just the water we swim in, and it's been quietly twisting our most fundamental values, even what we think it means to be an individual.
And here's the name of the hijacker: corporatism. Now, it's super important to get this right. He's not just talking about big companies like Apple or Google. For Saul, corporatism is a whole system where society gets broken up into all these different competing interest groups. Businesses, professional associations, government agencies, all of them. And in this kind of system, the real power and legitimacy, it doesn't belong to you, the individual citizen. It belongs to the group.
And this really lays out the core conflict, doesn't it? I mean, look at the difference. Democracy is supposed to be built on us, the individual citizens all participating for the common good. But corporatism? Nah, it's built on the group. And a group, almost by definition, is always going to look out for its own self-interest first. So your role as a citizen totally changes. You go from being an active participant to, well, a passive member who's just expected to conform to your little silo.
So how does an ideology like this get so powerful? Well, Saul says it taps into a very human weakness we all have. We love simple, all-inclusive answers. He calls it an addictive weakness for ideology. We just crave these grand theories that promise to explain everything and deliver some kind of perfect future. You see it everywhere, from big historical isms like Marxism and fascism to the more modern idea that the free market can solve literally any problem you throw at it.
And here's the playbook, basically. This is how it works. First, the ideology presents its big idea not as just one option, but as the single truth. Then it frames that truth as totally inevitable. It's just common sense, right? This is just how things are. So if you dare to doubt it, you're not just wrong, you're kind of foolish, you're naive. And pretty soon the only logical thing to do is just conform. And just like that, the citizen, who's supposed to ask questions, gets turned into a subject who just accepts.
And this quote from Mussolini that Sal uses, man, it's just chilling, because it gets right to the heart of it. The crowd doesn't have to know, it must believe. See, these ideological systems, corporatism included, they don't want a public that's informed and knowledgeable. They want a public that is faithful. It's all about replacing knowledge with belief, replacing critical thought with pure emotion. It's not about winning an argument on the merits. It's about demanding and getting absolute obedience.
So one of the main tools for keeping this control in place is something we all use every single day, without even thinking about it: language itself. Saul's argument here is fascinating. He says our language has been shattered, broken into two completely separate and unequal forms. And because of that, having a real, genuine public debate has become almost impossible. And you can see that split right here. On one side, you've got our public language, the normal way we all talk. It's rich, it's flexible, anyone can use it. But in the real world, it's become powerless. And then on the other side, you have what Saul calls corporatist language.
And this isn't just one thing. It's thousands of tiny, specialized dialects. It's the jargon of economists, the acronyms of managers, the legalese of bureaucrats. And it's not designed to help people understand. It's designed to keep people out, to control information and to protect turf. And that's the language that's actually connected to power and action. Okay, so this all might sound a little abstract, right? Corporatism, ideology, language, but Saul insists this has huge, deeply personal consequences for every single one of us. The real question is, what does all this mean for your life, for my life? Well, it really boils down to this. It's a battle inside of us and inside our society between being a citizen and being a subject. Saul says that every single day, whether we realize it or not, we're being pushed to choose between these two completely different ways of being.
So what's the difference? Well, a citizen actively takes part. They question things, they feel the sense of responsibility for the whole of society, not just their own little corner of it. But a subject just conforms. They accept the way things are, they see themselves not as a citizen, but as a function. An employee, a specialist, just another member of a group, doing their part.
And this is where it really hits home, because this is the personal cost. In the kind of corporatist society we live in, the system is built to reward the subject and to punish the citizen. Think about it in your own workplace. The person who just conforms, who plays their role perfectly within the group, they get ahead. But the person who speaks out, who questions authority, who worries about the bigger picture, what do we call them? Disruptive, unprofessional, not a team player, right? So if that's the trap we're in, how the heck do we get out? Well, this is key. Saul is very clear that the answer is not to just find a new, better ideology to believe in. Because if you just fight one rigid system with another one, you're just stuck in the same cycle. The only real way out, he says, is to wake up, to consciously reclaim our consciousness. How do we do that? Saul says we need to go back to basics, to the very tools that built democracy in the first place, Socratic tools. He points to three foundations for a conscious society. First up is doubt, just having the guts to question the so-called absolute truths that are handed to us. Second, participation, making the conscious choice every day to act like a citizen, not just a passive subject. And third is this idea of disinterest, which basically means being able to care about the public good even when it's not in your own direct, narrow self-interest. This is the question that Saul actually opens the entire book with, and it was written almost 1,000 years ago. Who is more contemptible than he who scorns knowledge of himself? It's a challenge that's as powerful today as it was in 1159. An unconscious civilization is just a group of people who refuse to know themselves. And so the only way forward for society as a whole and for each of us starts with that really hard work of looking in the mirror.
And that really brings this whole thing down to one final, very personal question for you. In your job, in your community, in your day-to-day life, which role are you really playing? Are you acting like an engaged citizen, someone who feels responsible for the whole picture? Or are you acting like a specialized function, getting rewarded for just conforming to your specific part? The amazing and maybe scary thing that Saul reminds us of is that the choice is always, always ours to make.